Welcome back to Plastic Models by Regular Dude, and the next installment of the US 2.5 ton 6x6 cargo truck for the Plastic Models for Beginners Back to Basics series. So we left off last time with the completion of step 12, so now it's on to step 13, which is attaching the fenders, brush guard, the hood, and all that. So let us start with the fenders. I already clipped it off, and just have to do a little basic cleanup business here. Like that. So here's what it looks like so far, the cab. That's all painted on the interior with the seats and everything. Once I get everything done, I will add some washes and stuff to the seat to bring out the seats to bring out that texture, and do a little mud and stuff. I'm not going to do a whole lot of weathering on the inside just because it's not really going to be visible, but I will do some, but that's later. So it shows the first thing to do is to install the headlights. Can't forget these bits here getting cleaned up. So we've got two A36s. Two A36s. So that's here. And then we also have A33 and 35. There. And 32, which is the actual headlight bucket. All right. And there's actually two of those, so the other parts will be on the other A sprue. So it's basically all this stuff here, except for just the one blackout light, so we'll leave that on there. So we got two of those, one of those, and two of those. So let's do some cleanup on those, going to be pretty easy. Just a matter of getting those little bit of sprue gate off of there. And there's no seams on those headlights. There's no seams on there because it was molded in such a way that the seam is right on the very edge. Alright, so let's do now the clear portion. E1, I'm not going to do those till later. That'll be like one of the very last steps I do before I start weathering, because I want to paint the inside of these silver before I put those lenses in. Those clear lenses. So now, because it's kind of hard to hold. Whoops. I want to use this. I'm going to use this to hold this while I apply the cement, because I don't want to leave any fingerprints. Before I do that, I'm going to make sure those are sitting flush. Do it down here on the bottom where it's inconspicuous. Okay. There's that one. There's that one. All right. So now I can start gluing this stuff into the where it goes. Be careful, these are small. Okay, so I need to look and see if these are supposed to stick up a little bit or be flush. So I'm gonna grab some pictures here and take a look. Okay, and looking at the instructions, these do need to go flush, so that's what I did. And this little protrusion out the bottom, the only thing I can figure is to make it easier to install them. So I'll clip those off once I have them glued in and they've set up properly. So then we have the blackout light here. Which is going to need a little coaxing. For that to fit in. There we go. Okay, make sure that's lined up. And then the headlights. So there they are. So I'm going to apply the cement from underneath so as to minimize the chance of marring the fender itself. Make sure they're straight. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry up for a minute and start cutting off some of these other parts. So that's together. So I'm going to cut off D6, D5, 13, 15, and A2. So let's get A2 first. The brush guard for the front. Okay, so let's get this cleaned up, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to scrape all the way around it. Make sure these are really cleaned up good, because they're going to be right on top. If they aren't cleaned up right, they're going to look mighty funky. And that's a fragile bit of plastic there, so make sure you're careful in cleaning it up. Some parts are a lot easier to clean up than others, and this is one of the ones that's a little bit tougher, just because it's fragile, and you really got to make sure you get those spots where it was connected to the sprue cleaned up good, because they'll stick out like a sore thumb when you start when you start weathering. All right, so then I'm going to take my knife on this back edge here, clean up any burring from the sanding. Just so it's not fuzzy along the edges. Just like that. Tedious, I know, but that's part of it sometimes, is doing these tedious things. Because there's nothing worse than getting to the weathering stage and having painted and everything else, only to discover you got some nasty looking failed cleanup attempts. Okay, that looks pretty good. So, got that. All right, so let's get these other parts here. Let's get D15. Whoops. D15 is right here. So, something else to keep in mind. Now that we're getting into this cab business, we need to take a look at the accessory kit and see if any of these parts are replaced or modified for installation, as opposed to what just shows in the kit instructions. So let me clean this up a little bit. Get that parting line there. Smoothed out. Again, this is on a top edge where there's going to be exposed, you know, it's going to be more exposed than other parts, and will be quite prominent and visible, so you don't want it to really stick out whenever you're doing weathering, because you'll be able to see it. Alright, that one's clean. Then we've got the hood slash bonnet, depending on where you're from. Well, and then the two side covers for the engine compartment. Make sure those are nice and flat. Alright, so that's all the parts for there. So let's get the thing here and see what it says about these extra parts. Alright, so here's what we want to do. Since I am using the parts from this and it's going to have the canvas top gone, I'm going to be using this part here, which is A10. That takes the place of this. The difference being is this has the canvas top simulated as rolled up onto this rack part here. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside since I'm not using it. And cut this part off with the accessory kit and clean that up. And then I will also need to cut off these A14, 18, 17. Those are going to have to be cut out, cleaned up, and installed as well. So let me go ahead and clean this part up here. Whoops. Because this one is what I'll install first. So since you saw me clean that other one up, I'm just going to go ahead and clean this one up off camera so it doesn't take up too much time. Okay, so I've got this cleaned up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, in the original instructions for the kit, I'm going to install these parts first. So here's a case where there's some ejector pin marks. They're going to be covered up by this. So unless you just really like doing it, there's no need to clean it up. Okay, so we've got that there. So, you know what though? Before I do it, I gotta clean up these edges because they got that kind of little bit of flared out business going. Okay, that's a lot better. All right, now let's glue it on there. There. And there. Let that set up for a second. There. And there. Okay, so let's hold that in position there. Just make sure it's kind of centered up on these two parts as much as you can. All right, and then now these I'm going to do from the inside. Now it's just me, but I've got my finger as much as I can, just kind of in the center part, not touching where those seams are, because if some of this cement goes out around, I don't want to be touching it. I'm mainly going to be just doing the front and the back. Okay, and then same thing with this side. Okay. Hold that for a second. you go. Looks pretty good. Okay, so there's that, and then the brush guard. And that fits right on the front. And there are two sides. This longer side here goes to the driver's side of the vehicle. So make sure you don't glue it on backwards, because there will be much weeping and gnashing of teeth. Like that. So I'm going to let that set up for a second. Now, the other parts I need for the machine gun mount M36 are the 3 poles. Okay, and first there is a kind of a template deal here. Which helps you line these things up. So I'm going to cut that out. This you don't have to worry about getting it real clean. You just need to make sure it's fairly clean though, so if any of that rests up against anything. Okay, and it fits in between these strips here, and then there's a part on the bottom that bottoms out. So you want to make sure that that's lined up correctly like that, okay, whenever you use it. So the first one I'm going to glue in, I'm going to do A17 first, because that's the one that has to be aligned perfectly with that lining up device. So I'll cut that off and clean it up. Make sure that is sanded down. Now there's some ejector pin marks and they look raised, so you want to make sure you sand those off or you'll have a weird little coin shaped dip in there. Now it's going to be up high enough to that rack where if it's not exactly perfect, it'll be okay, but you do want to get as much off as you can. Okay, so this goes here. Now this is somewhat tricky because you want to make sure that you're careful when you cement this thing in, that you don't inadvertently cement this template to the back of the vehicle as well. So this is a case where, because it's so close, And because there's contact points here, whoops. You know what, to make this easy, I'm going to tape this into place with some handy dandy Tamiya tape. If not, it's going to be a little bit too difficult for me to use all, you know, I don't have enough hands. So, use the old handy dandy tape here. I'm going to do it like this. Okay, so that's holding that in place nicely. So what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to be real careful in cementing this thing in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my thicker liquid cement, because I do not want it to bleed underneath this framework here, that template, and stick it where it doesn't want it need to be stuck. So I'm just going to put just a few dabs on there like that. And then to make sure that it doesn't go out the sides, I'm going to spread it this way to thin it out a little bit. And then put it in place like that. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry up for a second. I'm going to cut off A17 next, which is the one on that side of the cab. Or I'm sorry, A17. A18, this side of the cab. Make sure that is trimmed off nicely. And this one here, and make sure the seam is scraped smooth. Okay. Okay, so it looks like this. It's got this little foot on the bottom. Okay. Looks like it bottoms out right there. And there's a little rib here that fits in a channel here. Okay. So again, this is one of them things where it's kind of tricky to hold it in place while you cement it in. Just make sure it's in the groove. That looks pretty good. And make sure it's centered on that corner. Like that. Now, the part that goes on there is this. So, okay. Now, in relation to the photo, this part here with the two little pins faces forward, so just kind of eyeball it and make sure your width is correct, and that's just about perfect, so that's good. Now the nice thing about stuff like this is this is made by the manufacturer specifically for their kit. So add a little bit of reinforcement there. That makes it a surefire fit. So let's see. Then we have A14. Which is this one here. Same thing, make sure it's cleaned up nicely. And now that one's kind of beveled, so you want to make sure you cut it along the bevel. Like that, and then get that parting seam. Just like that. Okay, and this one mounts, you can see this little protrusion here fits right in there, theoretically. It's got detail front and back, so that bevel is supposed to sit flat on its mating surface here. So it's going to be at a little bit of an angle. Let's see, I'm gonna look at this again. See what the, see that goes to the front, so that goes like, This one's just a little bit trickier because you want to make sure you've got it lined up right. So I'm going to scrape a little bit more on where this sprue was attached to make sure see, it's beveled on both sides, so it goes into that corner like that at an angle. Looks like about a 45-degree angle. So let's put some cement on there and hope for the best. Like that. And now let's see if it is still lining up. Don't stick your finger all over it like I just did, knucklehead. Okay, that lines up, so we're good. All right, so I'm going to let that cure up for a minute before I do anything else because this is getting pretty precarious here. So I'll come back in a second once this is cured up. Okay, next up, I'm going to put this part in to show the, instead of D15, since I am doing the rolled up top. Okay. And then all right, so now that that's in place, I'm going to go ahead and do the fenders. Which has these two little protrusions here that go into those holes there. And then this underneath goes there, like that. So hold that in place. No, I don't even need to hold it. There and there. And there and there, just like that. Splendid. Okay, so that is in place. So that pretty much takes care of 13. All right, so the next part step 14 is attaching the top, which I'm not using. Attaching D12, which I'm not using because that is actually going to be in place of that part. And then the windshield. So let's find the windshield, which is D1. So I think I'm going to hang on. I'm going to hold off on D1 because I have to glue the clear parts in, and I don't want to do that just now. So I'm going to leave this off and paint it separately whenever I paint everything else. And then before the weathering starts, I'll attach the clear parts. So basically, I am skipping. Well, you know what? I'll go ahead and put these small parts on here. I'll do that. So let's go ahead and cut the windshield off. Make sure those are cleaned up nicely. Like that. What's cool is this actually includes A20, which are like ultra little tiny parts. See right there, little bitty pieces, which are the wiper motors. So that's kind of neat. And the detail on them is really nice. So you'd want to be careful with those because those are really small and they'd be easy to drop. So what I'm going to do is carefully pick one up and hope I don't go pinging it off into oblivion. Put a little bit of cement there. Just like that. So get the other one. And do the same thing. Then I need these little brackets or whatever they are. 15. Oh, that's just epic. Well, I guess that's a good thing why they give you two sets. Because that one was broke. Well, that's obviously a weak thing. So I'm going to have to repair these. Both of them were broken. That makes me somewhat sad. So do that. I need something that's going to be non-stick when I cement them together, these pieces. So let me get them ready, and then I'll cement them together. Okay. So here's a lesson on how to put delicate broken parts back together. Okay, so we'll let that sit and get fixed. Okay, so that one broken part glued together no problem, but oddly enough, the other two, the one for the other side, one of them was broke, but one of them wasn't. So I don't know if something got kind of a little bit squished in the box, but it was no big deal. It was easily fixed. One of the joys of Tamiya Extra Thin. So the only other part that I have to do for 14, since I'm not doing the glass, the clear parts yet, is the rear view mirror, which is D11, and that is this one right here. So I'm gonna chop that off real quick, like. Being careful not to chop off that little bit of bolt detail that is right above this connection point here. Okay, get this trimmed up. Get the seam smoothed out. Like that. Then fits right in this little slot right here. Put a little dab of the old cemento in there. And hopefully get this put in place before it evaporates. Like that. Okay, so that pretty much concludes step 14. So I'm going to end this video here. It's gone on way too long, way longer than I wanted it to. So I'm going to end it here. And the next steps will be the cargo area, the bed, starting with step 15 there. So I apologize, this one was really long, but with that accessory kit, that kind of extended a little bit longer than I thought it would. So we'll call quits there. As always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. And if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, well, as always, put them down below. And I will see you next time for more Plastic Models for Beginners. And I will see you later.